What is up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be a video of me answering the questions that you guys have sent me a week ago. And if the camera gets out of focus, I apologize. But I'm going to be answering the questions from the first YouTuber to the last, from the first YouTuber to the latest. And let's get started. The first three questions are from Ethan Work. What are your top three Frank Zappa albums? My top three would be Hot Rats, We're Only In It For The Money, and in terms of a third favourite studio album, it would be Burnt Weenie Sandwich. But for me, my real third favourite Frank Zappa album, it is Bongo Fury, which is an incredibly classic, underrated live album from Captain Beefheart as well, because he's involved with Frank Zappa. But those are my top three favourite Zappa albums. I mean, he has made so many different albums that I really like a lot, that are one of my favourites too, like Freak Out, Weasels Rip My Flesh, Apostrophe, and Shake Your Booty. So many great albums. What's your opinion of the band Swans? I've not listened to every single album from them yet, but from what I've heard, Swans sound absolutely incredible and amazing. Michael Gira is, for me, a genius, one of the geniuses of music. So from what I've been listening to so far, I think Swans are just mind-blowing. They have a great amount of albums as well. What's your favourite album from the 21st century? That's quite a hard question, but I think my favourite from the 21st century would probably still have to stay with Mastodon's Crack the Sky. I mean, it is my favourite album from the late 2000s, and it is my 9th all-time favourite album. The next YouTuber is Slipknot MFKR. What are your opinions on the newish Slipknot song All Out Life? I personally think it is really good, and despite it being amazing, I don't think it will be the best song on the album. That it was just a little taste for the album to get us all excited. I personally agree with what you just said, that it may not be the best song on the album, but my personal thoughts on All Out Life at first, I thought it was a little bit of a mixed bag. I find the lyrics to be a little bit cheesy, but over time I was listening to it a few more times, and I think it's starting to be a grower song for me. It is a good track, but I would predict that later, newer material from the upcoming Slipknot album to be better than All Out Life. So many fans cite it as like a reminiscence of the first two albums. Well, I disagree actually. I thought of it as like a hint of Volume 3 and the Grey Chapter. But that's just me. The next question is from EQPTV, and this is possibly the difficult one to answer for me, so bear with me, Elliot. What do you find to be the common problems of modern music? As obvious this may sound, but I just find modern music from a lot of artists from this decade and from the last decade as well to be hugely lackluster of artistry and originality. And I just find it a shame that music to me is nowhere near as strong or as interesting as it was from the previous decades. And what's even sadder is that I find some of the musicians of today to be very egotistical and not giving a damn about anybody else, and say to these people that they should listen to their music and better love it, or call me, a great musician. Some bad egotistical behavior. Some musicians are like that. I just wish that musicians of today would have been so much more open-minded and be respectful for other people and musicians and respect their music as well from what they've been making. But I just find the originality of music today was just completely overblown from its Muzak garbage. I mean, not everything, just most of it. I mean, there are some artists I really got to like, Like I like Kendrick Lamar. I mean, I have bought To Pimp a Butterfly on vinyl, but in terms of other ones, there's rarely any other few selections of modern bands or artists that I like from the modern generations of music of today. That's just my take on it, man. So there you go. You may agree, you may disagree, but that's just me being brutally honest about it. Greedy Selfish 97, he asked 5 questions. Besides Smile and Pet Sounds, what other Beach Boys albums have you listened to? I've not been listening to the rest of the Beach Boys discography because I've been listening to many bands that I've not gone back to and discovering new bands that I got to love from my favourite eras of music, and I apologise for that, man. Thoughts on Disturbed's Evolution album? I gotta be honest, again, I've lost interest in Disturbed after the Immortalized album. It was not terrible, but I just never find it to be very good. It's not a very good album, in my opinion. It's just meh. It's a mixed bag. But I still have the previous albums from them on CD because I really did like Disturbed quite a lot back in the day. But Disturbed are one of those bands that have, fallen off my radar. Do you own any cassette tapes? Actually, I do. However, I need to make a video on that. But I don't have like a huge collection. Well, cassette tapes nowadays for me have been, more rare, and they're becoming more unpopular and more extinct because of the overpopularity of CDs and records and I think the stupid, pathetic downloading as well. What are your favourite film scores and soundtracks? My favourite film scores and soundtracks, I don't have a lot, but I will name some. I love soundtracks of Oliver, the 1960s one, Jaws, The Godfather, Silence of the Lambs, my all-time favourite movie, Taxi Driver, The Terminator. I could name some more, but those are the ones that I love so far. But I would like to have a collection of CDs or records of some of my all-time favourite films soundtracks. And the last one, do you have Discord? I've looked it up, man, and for me it just does not seem, my kind of thing. And it's cool that you mentioned something that is like a recommendation, but it's not like my cup of tea. So yeah, apologies. But thanks for those questions. And the previous YouTubers as well. Billy Bishop, what's your opinion of the album Dystopia by Megadeth? I've not listened to that album yet, man, and I need to come back to review the rest of their albums. The last album that I've reviewed from them was Countdown to Extinction. I have reviewed Super Collider when it came out, but I have not listened to Dystopia or the later albums. Well, I have listened to them, but I've not reviewed them yet. Which recent Big Four album do you prefer the most? I wouldn't say recent, but my favourite Big Four album is Metallica's Master of Puppets. I love Ride the Lightning as well. I love Among the Living, Rain in Blood, Rust in Peace, but Master of Puppets is the one for me. What's your favourite death metal band of all time? I think it would have to be Cannibal Corpse. I know that is like a very big, like cliche prediction kind of answer, but I love other ones. I love Morbid Angel and Suffocation and Immolation. But Cannibal Corpse is the one for me. Do you consider buying the remastered version of the first 4 Metallica albums? Not really. I would be at a hunt for finding original pressings of the first 4 albums on vinyl. And I'm not really keen on buying the remasters as well, like the big box sets. I'm not really interested in buying those kinds of versions. The next question is, which do you prefer better, CDs or vinyl records? I always stick to records because I find vinyl to be the truest format of listening to music. Well, I've already explained why I love vinyl so much in one of my videos, but I still have my collection of CDs, but I'm always down as the records kind of person. And the last one, who's your favorite thrash metal vocalist? I think my favorite thrash metal vocalist would have to be Joey Belladonna from Anthrax. I always really like the sound of his voice and his range too, especially from the early Anthrax albums. He just sounds natural and fantastic, suits the sound from the instrumentation with Anthrax. So I would say Joey Belladonna. And the last YouTuber to ask 7 questions is Andy, aka Mr. One Singularity. The first question is, what is the most important album, Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges, or The Velvet Underground and Nico by The Velvet Underground? They're both important albums in every single way. I mean, there's many others, but I would say, along with some other people, the more important album is The Velvet Underground and Nico. And, you know, Raw Power is known as like a huge influence for the future generations of punk bands. But for The Velvet Underground and Nico, I think that album is like more important. And, you know, obviously when it came out, it was badly reviewed. It was hugely ignored. Critics hated it at the time. But since then, the album has been regarded as one of the greatest albums of all time because of its importance of lyricism and the poetry from Lou Reed, and how uncompromising yet unique it sounds. Best Stooges song. For now, I think it would probably be Loose from Funhouse. I mean, I love other songs from that album, like Down in the Street, LA Blues, TVI. I mean, I love all of the songs from that album, but I think it would be Loose from Funhouse for now. Best Velvet Underground song. I think it would be a tie between I'm Set Free and Sister Ray from White Light, White Heat. I'm Set Free is from their self-titled album. But I think Sister Ray and I'm Set Free, for me, are two of my favourite Velvet Underground songs. I mean, there's so many others that they've been writing that I love, but I think those two are my favourites, tied for number 1. Best stoner rock band. I have not been listening to many other stone rock bands, but if there are some that are like hugely popular or very underrated, please recommend them to me. And I would actually really like to get into the deeper sound of the stoner rock scene. Who is better, Kyuss or Queens of the Stone Age? Again, I've not listened to a band like Kyuss yet, man, because, you know, as I said, I have been listening to bands that I have not been coming back to, and to become fans of bands that I got to love. But I have heard of Queens of the Stone Age. I think they're a good band, but for me, they're not like my cup of tea. And I'm actually getting a bit sick and tired of hearing No One Knows. I just heard it way too much on the radio. I mean, it is a good track, but Queens of the Stone Age are not like one of those like mind-blowing and wow kind of bands, as many people say. But I have a lot of respect for them nonetheless. Who is better, Sex Pistols or the Stooges? I mean, I love Sex Pistols. Nevermind the Bollocks is a classic punk record. I haven't listened to all of the material from the Stooges, but I've heard that the albums after Raw Power are like really bad, so I'm not going to be bothering with those. But I think it would have to probably be the Stooges. I love the Sex Pistols, but I'm probably more of a Stooges kind of person, so there you go. Which mix of Raw Power is the best? David Bowie's or Iggy Pop's? I have not listened to David Bowie's mix of Raw Power, but I've been told that it was a terribly done mix of that album, and I've heard that David Bowie had to spend like just one entire day to mix the album, and I've heard that it was like too overcompressed, overproduced sounding. But for me, I am more of a person that sticks to original mixes of some albums. So I guess Iggy Pop's mix is definitely even better than David Bowie's one. But you know, I don't think David Bowie's mix would sound as strong as the original Iggy Pop mix. That's my take on that one. So that is it, guys. That is the time that I have for this video, and sorry that the camera has been going out of focus for some bits, but I'm glad that I've answered the questions that you guys have sent in last week. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So the next video will probably be a new update video or an album review in the Classic Albums Revisited segment. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.